And Barakadi Saleh to our Muslim brothers. You're watching The Pulse on the Joy News channel. Asin North elections were largely peaceful. The remarks from domestic election observers as they equally raised concerns over a few incidents which they consider a block to the peaceful democratic process which took place in the central region yesterday. Meanwhile, the NDC's James Quayson, who emerged as the winner, is upbeat about resuming his parliamentary duties here in Accra.
So long as I know the cause I'm leading is genuine and it benefits other people.
Well, this afternoon, there are fears of a possible shortage of gas supply in parts of Kumasi and Nkoko after more than 72 hours of tanker drivers withdrawing their services across the country. What's been the impact? We'll get that update for you shortly here on The Pulse. And as Muslims mark Eid al-Adha celebrations, President Akufo-Addo is urging all Muslims and also citizens alike to continue to support government's mandate in the ongoing efforts to revive the Ghanaian economy.
The height of the COVID-19 pandemic, that we do not know how to bring back lives, but we know how to bring back the economy. I stand by those words. Inshallah.
Yes, episode of what transpired here in Accra today as part of the celebrations is all coming up here on The Pulse. The Pulse is always brought to you by Global Communities Digni Lu, Affordable Safe Sanitation. We're on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV 125. I'm blessed to join News is independent, fearless and credible. We're back with details on the stories for you shortly. Please stay. This is The Pulse. That it was a resounding victory for James Quayson, who is returning to Parliament for certain as representative for the Asin North constituency. Despite the decision of the Supreme Court to annul his 2020 electoral victory on grounds that he holds dual citizenship, James Quayson, we know now, has been re-elected with a rather higher margin of votes that he won in the last elections, comparing that to now. Of course, the victor of this by-election within the Asin North constituency says his victory is a verdict of the level of confidence his followers have reposed in him. Listen.
I've always been happy. Tonight is exceptional because Asin North people have vindicated every court and myself. And they still believe in me, so that makes me happy.
What does this victory mean to you personally? Are there lessons to be shared to the whole world?
Well, I mean, principles and values I work with, and I don't quit easily. So long as I know the cause I'm leading is genuine and it benefits other people. You see, you haven't been in a situation where you have to sacrifice your own life interest for the benefit of others. Until you are there, you will not understand it. Somehow you get an inspiration and you become fearless because you are standing for the truth, you are standing for justice, you're standing for almost everything that benefits other people other than yourself. That is why we have people like the Kwame Nkrumahs and we have people like the Mandelas. All right? Otherwise, somebody has to do it. Somebody has to be in that position sometimes. So I'm very...
What would you tell the people of Asin North for what they have done, the victory they have given you?
Well, the victory belongs to them. The victory belongs to Ghana. And the victory belongs to rule of law, justice.
Are you daunted by the fact that you'll be going to court very soon?
No. That's the least of my thought. I'm focused on how I can get Asin North developed. The court can take its own course. I mean, as I said earlier, I have not committed any wrong to worry about what is ahead of in legal terms. No.
Well, so we're asking that question. What's been the overall assessment of the electoral process yesterday? Well, we're getting some answers on that because the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers are describing the Asin North by-election as largely, quote, peaceful, which was fully concluded after the winning candidate was declared. Kodeo acknowledges that the conduct of the polls was consistent with the general rules and regulations which was adhered to by the polling officials. That's contained in the latest document that Cordeo has released to the press. I want to bring in now Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Quayson Asante, who's been looking at the details of the concerns being raised by Cordeo. Kuku, we know that they're lauding the Electoral Commission and also the Ghana Police Service for organizing what they describe as a peaceful poll. But there are concerns about some blots on the electoral process. So first off, let's get to the reason surrounding why they're assessing this as largely peaceful, and then we'll get to the concerns Cordeo is raising.
The disruption of polls, some of these isolated incidents were all largely dealt with by the police swiftly. They talk about the Electoral Commission and how they were able to distribute materials to the various the polling areas. They say that that was largely spot on. So they've given a thumbs up to the Electoral Commission and the Ghana Police Service for being able to manage and organize this process in a way that was reminiscent of Ghana's democratic credentials. But then they go ahead to talk about a few blots like you discussed. They talk about intimidation of our colleague journalists at Adom TV. They say that at about 7:20 a.m. at Methodist Primary School 2 in Breku, a journalist from Adom TV was interviewing electorates, and he was confronted by a reported executive of the NPP for conducting that interview. Again, the police intervened, and the matter was swiftly dealt with. They talk about the violation of voting procedure. They also cite the instance at Methodist Primary School 2 in Breku, where 2 electorates were apprehended by the police for taking a snapshot of their ballot paper after voting. That was also an incident that was seemingly seeking to mar the smooth process of the election. The police dealt with that as well. And they also report about a violent clash. They say that about 1 p.m., a convoy of vehicles with NPP occupants, accompanied by the Ashanti regional chairman of the NPP, a chairman owned to me, pursued a vehicle occupied by NDC supporters from a different polling station to in Praso. And during this pursuit, the occupants of the NPP vehicles proceeded to vandalize and damage parts of the NDC vehicle, resulting in commotion and disturbance alongside the roadside.
Right.
But the police intervened to calm the situation. So these are some of the incidents that thought it was going to mar the process, but generally, Cordeo has given it a clean bill of health.
Is there any key recommendation going forward? Because this is just a precursor to the major electoral exercise that will happen next year. We're having both parliamentary and presidential elections. What's Cordeo saying about the future?
So Cordeo really believes that this election should serve as a blueprint for the 2024 general election in terms of how distribution of materials were done, the policing at the various polling stations were done. They believe that these were done really well and must serve as the blueprint going into the 2024 election.
Okay. You're also in Parliament, and just last week we were talking about that spectacle. Almost all MPs leaving the House just to monitor what's going on in Asin North. We're setting to have business resume in the next 24 hours. From your sources, are you picking up if James Quayson will be officially sworn in tomorrow by the Speaker of the House? Because there's a lot to be done. I mean, considering the number of bills before the House, the critical one on the anti-gay bill, which has been suspended until tomorrow. What are we likely to see? James Quayson returning to Parliament tomorrow?
So, according to my sources within Parliament, the institution is ready to swear in Quayson, but it's a certain process which may delay the process. That is, the Electoral Commission would have to send to Parliament the instrument of the election, confirming that James Quayson has been elected so that Parliament can proceed to swear them in. And so the expectation is that if the Electoral Commission is able to quicken that process, send the necessary documents to Parliament by Thursday morning, by Thursday, a few hours after that, they will be able to swear in Quayson. So all that is on the Electoral Commission. The indication we are getting is that this is not such an elaborate process, and that the Electoral Commission can work on this as soon as tomorrow morning. It's just like a letter to the Speaker of Parliament confirming that this election has taken place. But for the reason that today is a holiday, that process would have been completed by now. Because today is a holiday, we expect that the EC may do that tomorrow morning,
right,
hand that over to Parliament. And so, if for nothing at all, if not tomorrow, by Friday, Quayson is expected to be sworn in the second time to continue his work in Parliament.
We're on the lookout for that sharply divided House, but we'll keep following that for you. Quayson Asante will be there in Parliament to get you the very latest, my colleague here. at Joy News. So what's accounting for this 57% plus votes that James Quayson is getting, over a 7,000 margin in an election fiercely contested? And what's the science behind all of this? At the time, of course, when predictions were rife that the elections were up for grab for the NPP's candidate. I want to bring in Musa Dankwa, who's Executive Director for Global Info Analytics. And Musa, just last week we were discussing your prediction that there were about 6% of the voter population that were not decided, of course, at the time. They did not tell you where their votes were going to lie. Is that why we're experiencing this margin of victory for James Quayson?
All right, thank you very much for having me. I think there are two sources of his margin. Entirely to his side. And then we had people who may have said they were intended to vote for Charles Okoku. That actually didn't mean it. They went to the polls and voted for Charles Quayson. So you could see that the final poll compared to the...
Musa Dankwa, it appears we're not getting the point you're making. I was just asking about the 57.6 at 56% margin. Yes, we lost you briefly. If you could just take that point for us again.
Okay. It will take what Charles got in the opinion poll, the last opinion poll, yes, 45, and you add the roughly 7% rate. It will still less than the 5.7 that he got. So where did the extra percentages come from? It came from Charles. Because Charles lost ground. We saw that he was losing ground on a daily basis. So what happened was that people who said they were going didn't actually go and vote for James Quayson.
So what you mean to say is that the voters changed their mind at some point? Okay, we seem to be having some challenge, but Global Info Analytics at the time had decided to do a poll about this whole elections, predicting that James Quayson was following second to Charles Okoku. But then, of course, as we're seeing now, 57.56 is the margin of victory for James Quayson. We'll get back to Musa Dankwa later on, but we know that the woes of the newly elected James Quayson is far from over, as he's expected to appear in court over charges of perjury. James Quayson was indicted by the Supreme Court earlier for holding dual citizenship, first as a Ghanaian and then as Canadian, which could not allow him per the law to continue to hold himself out as Member of Parliament for Assin North. But this afternoon, there's a call from Ghanaians, especially those living in diaspora. Of course, they say that it's time to change and review our laws. Before we get to that, what's the rationale behind our laws that prevents dual citizens from holding this current political office that we're talking about as a Member of Parliament? Let's listen to US-based lawyer, Professor Kukwasari, who's been explaining to Samson Ladieni on the law about the rationale going into citizenship and the controversial issue of allegiance. Listen.
To another country other than Ghana is a term of art. It is not citizen. Otherwise, I've demonstrated that when the lawmaker wants to say citizen of another country, they know how to say it. So if they have not said a citizen of another country, just forcing allegiance to another country to be citizen of another country is just emotional law. It's not law as we are taught, and it's not law as it should be practiced. And I've given several cases.
Your position, you fortify your position by the fact also that you can owe allegiance and not be a citizen.
Yes, absolutely.
Because there are non-citizen-based allegiance.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And the biggest and the easiest way to understand this argument is that Article 94(2)(a) was there when we didn't even have dual citizens. So what did it mean when we didn't have dual citizens? Did it have no meaning? Okay. I mean, the Supreme Court is saying it was meaningless when we didn't have dual citizens, but that cannot be correct because that clause has been in the 1969 Constitution, has been in the 1979 Constitution, and both the 1969 and the 1979 Constitution did not allow dual citizenship.
Okay, so that's the position. And why must we change the laws? If indeed you want to serve, why not hold a Ghanaian passport only, just to show that you're indeed owing all of your allegiance to one state, which is Ghana? But the diaspora is wading in. I want to bring in some of our citizens living elsewhere. Charles Bodo is a businessman. He's joining us from Maryland in the United States of America. We also have Benjamin Kwashi joining us from South Africa. There's a number of individuals also joining us this afternoon. Richmond Aholu is a Ghanaian living in Australia, and Dr. Bauer is with the New Patriotic Party's China branch. He's here in Ghana, so he'll be joining us as well to have a conversation around this. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. Let's start off with you, Mr. Poto. The issue about why we are here today and why James Gyakye Quayson appears to be facing this challenge. For you, why is there an urgent need for us to change the laws, first of all?
Good evening, gentlemen, and to your listeners. In fact, when you look at all these things going on, you begin to understand the fear that people are entertaining when they insist that citizens of Ghana who have taken citizens in other countries for the benefit of themselves and to their families and the country at large should be removed or excused from exercising that citizenship spirit that they had. That is not taken away just because you hold a certificate from another country that you are a citizen of that country. Now, to tell you the truth, there are benefits that accrue from being a citizen of one country and living in another country. The advantages are there clear. So the question is, why do you have to say somebody is a dual citizen? What is a citizenship? If you're a citizen of one place, why would you be precluded or removed from any activity that benefit the country where you belong to as a citizen and yourself and your family? So when you look at all these things, for example, recently, the president of Sierra Leone, the one that is currently re-elected.
Well, he's been re-elected.
6 months ago, yes, Bill, has made it clear that those who are citizens of Sierra Leone living elsewhere who have dual citizenship can participate in political affairs of the country. Why? Because of the benefit that the country will derive. About 49% of all countries allow dual citizenship in Africa. Now, these countries have allowed this because they know the potential or the benefit that the country will gain by using the talents that these people have acquired abroad. Why would you deprive yourself of such a talent? Now, let me ask the country this question. If, for example, your brother living in Canada or in the US or anywhere outside Ghana, when he comes home, do you put him aside that he doesn't belong to the family because he has traveled and he's now no longer part of the family? But you allow him to come in, and moreover, what I know is that most of the time they even lead because they say they have more experience because they have learned from other people and they can bring that knowledge together to help the family. Why can't we do the same in Ghana? Why is it different? So for me, it is very perplexing. Now, if you look at how much those in the diaspora bring to the economy, per our gross domestic our income, it's about 7.4. Ghana ranked the second highest in terms of what? Remittances that come abroad after Nigeria. So the question is that the contribution of those in diaspora, why should that be diminished? What are we afraid of? Look, I don't want to bring myself into this picture, but let me bring myself into it for 1 second. The many years that I have lived in the United States and have run business for over 15 years as an employer, that experience, money cannot buy. No education can buy that. So if I want to bring that knowledge to Ghana to help the country, why should that become a problem? This is my problem with it. And I think the country needs to take another look at it and reset. This is what I can say for now.
But should it just be about money or finances?
No. There are many things that the country can gain by allowing their citizens abroad to come and help. education-wise. Now, how many people have the opportunity to go to Harvard, to go to other universities abroad? Not a lot. And most people, look, like countries like China, when people come here, they come here to recruit them and send them back home to contribute. People like in Israel, Americans don't have problem. They don't even doubt the fact that because this person is an American citizen and he have a dual citizenship in Israel, there is that suspicion. No, allegiance. There are so many Ghanaians who are not citizens of any other country, have own more allegiance to those countries and have cheated us or cheated Ghana from things that should come to the country. What about that? So what is the fear? What is the problem? It's not only about money.
Right. Is Richmond Aholu also here with us? Because I want to pick some other thoughts. Okay, let's hear from Benjamin Kwashi, who's also joining us. Ben, are you there? Richmond, if you can hear me, you're joining us from Australia. And of course, you're a Ghanaian there. Your experiences matter. You've seen what's happening as far as this whole James Quayson conversation is concerned. What's your perspective on whether or not we should be relaxing our laws or otherwise on this whole dual nationality issue? Yes, we're having some challenges with Richmond there. But Charles, just as we wait for the others to join, it appears we're having some challenge there. The incident that occurred, and of course we've seen that conversation come up about James Quayson. He spent, in this case, for instance, over 40 years, as we're being told, we don't know what the official record is, in Canada, elsewhere. The values and his system, I mean, he must have built his life entirely elsewhere. So the question is, if you really want to develop this nation, why not stay here for a while, know our system and what, of course, your people will need so you don't feel detached from the reality? What's your take on that?
Thank you for bringing me in to speak again one more time. Now, the longer somebody lives abroad does not detach him from reality. This person has been dealing with his family, making visits back and forth. I mean, it doesn't take that person away from the responsibility that he is supposed to face when he represents the people. But the added value that he has gotten, learning from other people, it is a value that no money can buy. And that is the value that he's bringing to the country. So you don't have to live in Ghana to know more about Ghana. But I'm not going to diminish the presence of a person in a country to have that personal attachment. That is also important. But the question is that, is this person qualified? Is this person the right person to represent the people? And if the people say yes, who are we to say that he is not one of us? When the person is a Ghanaian first and has taken advantage of other person's citizenship. Now, let me say this to you and to your audience. Believe me, if you appoint someone, let's say Quayson is in Canada and he's been appointed as an ambassador over there. Is it not better? By the time you take somebody from Ghana, send him to Canada, let him settle down, trying to find his feet, the country is losing. The Canadian government will be happier dealing with him as an ambassador on behalf of Ghana, making deals for the country than a newer person. You see, this is where the cultural benefit, we are losing it. The cultural benefit, we are losing that. So if you bring somebody from the United States to come to Ghana, he has seen things. Most people can say, oh, I've been to America to go to school, I've been to Canada to go to school. Going to school in Canada is different from living in Canada or in the United States as a person.
Right.
Because the experiences of what you have to do to survive in those places, coupled with the knowledge of what you have gained, is different. So when you walk into a place like Ghana or any other country in Africa, you can identify potential immediately by seeing them and say, hey, this is what I would do.
Okay, let's bring in Richmond, because Richmond is joining us from Australia. Richmond, the point about citizenship, allegiance, and just as we see that playing out in the case of James Quayson, your take?
Well, first of all, I'll start with saying who has been in politics or been influential in the Ghanaian politics without being overseas or having allegiance to another country, name it. Nana Akufo-Addo himself has been a British citizen. Baumia, on the other hand, had studied he had studied somewhere outside the country, coming down from whoever, the Nkrumah era to the Buzia era. We've had, countless amount of politicians who have studied overseas. What knowledge did they bring as against the people that were in Ghana in the 50s, for instance? They had much more, open knowledge. They had been exposed to, democracy in itself overseas, and therefore had ample knowledge about what the word democracy actually meant and politics in itself. So, being overseas was one advantage. Having allegiance to another country is another thing, if we have to look at it from that perspective. But then again, what are the laws of Ghana saying about who a Ghanaian is? If somebody naturalizes or somebody has gone through the processes of being a Ghanaian, then that qualifies the person.
Okay, so what then? What?
And they don't necessarily have to be a Ghanaian born.
Yes, but why is there growing interest, as we've seen? It's not like it's never been the case before. You have referred, for instance, to the president who's lived elsewhere, but this is a matter of citizenship, where some of them go to the extent of saying, well, I want to be part of that society. So why come back again?
Well, I mean, like the previous speaker said, citizenship could just be a matter of us having convenience, being wherever we are. So if I'm in Australia and, for instance, I'm an Australian Ghanaian, it just gives me the advantages of being in Australia. It doesn't really necessarily mean that I've denounced my country, so to speak. If I'm here and I'm a citizen of Australia, and it gives me the best advantage to be here, it is what it is. But if I'm in Ghana and I think I should be in Ghana and it gives me, or I should be a Ghanaian, it gives me the best advantage to be a Ghanaian, it is what it is. So does it really matter? I don't think so, because the Constitution allows for somebody who is not even a Ghanaian-born person to be a Ghanaian. So are we. Does it really matter? Should be the question that we should be asking, rather than whether it is an advantage or it is a disadvantage of somebody being a citizen of another country.
Does this issue that's coming up as to whether or not it makes it easier for you in the diaspora to obtain citizenship just for convenience, that has come up. Let's find out if Dr. Bauer Mbagi is also with us. He's with the New Patriotic Party's China wing. We'll get him for you shortly. We'll get Dr. Bauer for you shortly. But Richmond, the point about convenience. You are in Australia, for instance. The issue about convenience, how is it like for you normally?
Well, it gives you a competitive advantage, right? So you are able to compete on the Australian market just as an Australian would be. It gives you all the benefits of being an Australian, because you're a tax-paying Australian, you are a law-abiding Australian, and therefore, why not? Why can't you have the privileges that an Australian have? You know what I mean? Same as it would be if I was a Ghanaian and I was a law-abiding Ghanaian Australian. If I was an Australian originally and I've lived in Ghana long enough, why should someone or the law prevent me from, having full advantage to the Ghanaian market, for instance, or the Ghanaian business environment, for instance? It is what it is. It's not. I mean, let's go back to asking the question: why do we go overseas to study? Within the political elite in Ghana, everyone has one form or the other, cherished the ability to be able to go to a foreign country to study, adding some credentials to their profile or their portfolio. So why is it wrong? That's the question I would ask.
Okay, and for you, Mr. Porter, the experience in the U.S., for instance, let's compare that to what's happening in Ghana. What are some of the benefits you can point to, if indeed we allow and ease the laws to have more of our dual citizens come up to take a position here?
You can be a lawful resident. At the same time, people aspire to become a citizen. Why? The benefits are there. It expedites you bringing your family to join you in the United States. That's one reason why people do it mostly. Some people want to do certain jobs that require high security. You can only become a citizen of the United States. Even they don't know that you are from a different country, your passport that you hold as an American citizen still have Ghana in it, that you're from Ghana, because you were not born in the United States. You see, but they will trust you and give you security clearances to do government jobs. Now, the country that you're actually born in is denying you and afraid of you. For what? Now, let me say this. I would say the year of the return, to me, looking right now back, it's a fast. Why? If you are encouraging those that have left their ancestors have left the shores of Africa, not of their own willing, you're asking them to return back home. You do whatever, you know. And then now the man or woman who was born, bred, left the shores of Ghana in search of greener pastures to develop Ghana, to develop the individuals that rely on them. He wants to come back and contribute. You say no.
Is that always the case? For instance, take a look at yourself. Of course, you're a business executive. You're making it out there. And probably as a retirement package, quote and unquote, you may want to come back here and just retire after making it elsewhere. So it's about your personal gains, isn't it?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily, because money is not all that it is. There are people who really, really love their country, Ghana, and they want to come back and contribute. When we see things that is going on in Ghana, we wish we are there to help. So when we decide to come and help, you see, there is one thing. Even the individuals in Ghana, some of them will say, "To know," just because you are bringing new ideas. To know, that's the word. Say, "Oh, you are to know," because you think you are from America, you think you are from Canada, you think you are from Australia, you think you are from abroad. That attitude has gone right into the legislation, has gone right into this issue that we are discussing now, that Ghanaians are being deprived just because they have decided to take a different path from the rest of the people. And they are now willing to come back. Now they will say, go and denounce. So let's assume that Quayson is now going to be appointed as an ambassador to Canada because he has been in Canada for many, many years. Now, how do you think the Canadian government will feel? You have renounced our citizenship. Now you come to represent your country. Now you want to deal with us? These are all some of the things you have to. The cultural benefit, we are losing it. The cultural benefit, we are losing it big time. If Ghana is going to go places, then Ghana have to allow the people with the expertise who have left the shores, who have acquired knowledge that will help improve the lives of the people. Do not deprive them. Do not put stumbling block on their way. Allow them to flourish so that they can help the country. If the people choose them, then that's it. So the changes have to come. If not, the year of the return is a farce.
Gentlemen, for joining us. We're taking a break. We'll be right back. Thanks for joining the conversation. This is the Pulse. And you're welcome back. Residents of Central Kofi, Lolobi, and also the Akpafo communities are kicking against government's intention to mine mineral deposits in these areas. The areas are endowed with iron ore deposits, but residents say any attempt by the state to start mining in the area will greatly affect their social and economic lives. They have formed an anti-iron ore mining committee to have a united front to kick against any mining activity in the area. Peter Seno has more in this report.
4 communities from Central Kofi, Akpafo, Lolobi and Bori have declared their intention not to allow government or any entity to mine iron ore deposits in these areas. Their concerns are born from what is currently happening in mining communities in Ghana, where water bodies are heavily polluted with other social and economic negative impacts of mining. For the residents, it is a no to mining from all fronts. The 4 communities have therefore formed an anti-iron ore mining committee to have a common voice to protect their communities and heritage. Emma Amuzu is one of the concerned women. As peasants, she says their livelihood, which is farming, would be jeopardized greatly.
We've seen what is happening in Ghana, especially Ashanti and other areas, the way the mining is destroying a lot of things. So here, the only job our parents do is farming. And then we have these beautiful mountains up here. If we allow them to come and mine here, then they will destroy our land, they will destroy our farming areas. We wouldn't have anything, any place to farm again. This is the main reason why we said no, we don't want, because we want the beautiful forest and the mountain to remain there as it was before our forefathers left. And so we are here, especially me, on behalf of the women, saying that no.
Samuel Tete is a metallurgical engineer and has 20 years mining industry experience and hails from the area. He provided some industry experience but wants government to engage communities so as to win their trust before providing any permits or licenses on mining in these areas.
As a technical person, a lot of stakeholder engagement is needed, where the communities will have to be told the bare truth. Looking at it in context, the benefit to the community in terms of social infrastructure, maybe they will build schools, build roads, build hospitals, but the effect is that the community will be hungry, their agriculture will be adversely affected, and the source of rainfall, drinking water, their sources of water all originate from these mountains. As soon as you disturb the land area, you expose the minerals to rain. So even if you tell the community you drill boreholes, have you looked at the effect of the pollution of surface mining into the underground water? Aside that, what will be the effect of dust, fugitive dust? If you breathe it in, what is the health effect of airborne diseases on the community? This is where I am coming from.
But why are residents in these areas not interested in developing their communities through mining? Here is Emma again.
What development are we seeing? We are not seeing any development. And for that matter, we cannot stand here today and say, yes, mining brings development. What development is it bringing in the Ashanti region, Western region, etc., etc.? We cannot allow anybody to come and destroy our forests and then our farms. If there is a development, we would have been seeing it already. Charity begins at home. And for that matter, we can't stand here now and believe any government that, yes, they will come and then mine here and then bring development. What sort of development, for heaven's sake?
Nana Olato is the Chidomhini for Central Kofi traditional area. For him, the destruction of their source of water through the mining activities is his concern. Peter Senu for Joy News.
Okay, let's hear from Samuel Tete, who's a metallurgical engineer, joining us now. Thank you, sir, for your time. Has government officially communicated to you what they intend to do with iron ore in the area? Because we know that the lands minister, for instance, announced that there won't be any decision by government to ship off iron ore from our soils. So what official position are you getting on this?
As a mining professional, I was given my thoughts on the effects of iron mining on the Santrokofi, Akpafu, Lolobi, Bori area. We've read in the news that the Geological Survey Department has given out all blocks for certain companies to do exploration to define the resource into reserves that will be mined. Best practice will have made it such that government agencies like the Ghana Integrated Iron and Steel Development Corporation, that is the policy implementing agency for iron ore and the steel industry in Ghana, will have started engaging with the communities in the enclave. But over the past 2 years, when the news came up, they only keep hearing the news that some companies have started bringing containers ostensibly to set up exploration camps in their community. And you will admit with me that it is only the OT region and the Volta region where mining of any sort, whether legal or illegal, is taking place. And we all know the effects of mining on the environment. As a professional, I know the economic benefits mining will bring to our country: taxes, direct employment, royalties, and the fact that iron and steel has become one of the movers of industrialization. There is no building that can be put up without the input of a steel rod, which will come from the iron that will be mined. But as a professional, I am looking at it from the fact that aside the benefits that will go to the investors, to the government, in terms of taxes and royalties, and to the other stakeholders, what is it that the community will be affected with?
Are you suggesting that, there's some form of iron ore mining taking place already in the area?
You know, before mining starts, exploration must be done. There could be geological data telling you that a certain type of a mineral can be found somewhere. But you know, the value chain of mining starts from exploration. And it is not in a forest area away from human settlement. The communities live attached to the mountains. Interestingly, if you go to the Akpafu community, there are communities on top of the hills. So ideally, at the start of exploration, which has in effect started because the community members have started seeing drones around, ostensibly doing reconnaissance exploration. That is a airborne exploration. By now, they should start engaging with them, because if they don't have the government agencies, the technical persons know-how, they begin to feed on hearsay. For my case, I'm a mining professional. I've shared my thoughts with them. But what is the government doing to allay their fears? Because the community along the enclave is a purely agrarian community. They are mostly into farming. And it is the mountains that border them that is full of trees, that form clouds for rains to come and feed their rice farms, their other staples like cocoa farming that they engage in. So their fears lie along that line, so that they will not be there for anybody to come and tell them that, no, from tomorrow we are resettling you. They know next to nothing about that.
Okay, so as a community, and I saw you in the video there indicating that you all want a common position on what's going on. What common position are you arriving at this point?
The common position, I think, that must be undertaken is that the ministry that develops policy, that is the Ministry of Lands, for Forestry and Mines, plus its policy implementation arm, that is the Ghana Integrated Iron and Steel Development Corporation, as a matter of urgency, begin to engage with the communities in the Oti region where certain information about iron ore deposits exist. Because they must begin to know how, one, they will benefit if the mining will take place. Two, what effect will it have on them? Because for now, they're reading in the news about what even legal mining, the effect on communities in the mining areas of Ghana is doing to them. So, and they are so much attached to their farming. They need to know what effect will it begin to have on their farming, their sources of drinking water, their farmlands for agriculture. In the event that they will be relocated, all those things must begin to happen in advance, because ultimately, no matter the licenses any investor has, whether reconnaissance, exploration, the mining leases, the citizens of the lands hold the final ultimate social license that will permit them to either go into, to allow outsiders to come and mine on their lands. That is where they are coming from.
Okay, and you are an expert as well, so you're able to tell us about the possible dangers to the community if we go about doing this on a large scale. What are the potential dangers of going ahead to do this iron ore exploration or mining on a large scale within this community?
If you perchance visit Hawkway driving through Central Kofi to Jarasekan, we have a tall mountain range there where most of the rainfall that comes along from Jarasekan area to Bori to Central Kofi to Akpafu to Hawkway, across the mountains to the Lolobi liquid traditional area. This is a mountain range that serves as the rainfall source for these communities. So one of their fears is that if you tell them there is huge iron ore deposits in these mountains, it is obvious that as soon as the mountain is touched, their source of rainfall is touched. So their first source of concern is their livelihood. They are mainly peasant farmers in these communities. And looking at the ages of these men and women, even if the mining is done, I don't think any of them will have access to working because they are about 50 and they are mostly doing the farming. So their main concern is the farming. Aside that, if open pit or surface mining is done, obviously, blasting will affect their buildings because by the mining laws of Ghana, averagely you live just 100 meters away from a pit. And if blasting is done, obviously, their buildings will develop cracks. Aside that, the presence of dust, the dust will blow the winds towards all the communities. And it will affect their crop yields, because if the dust should settle on the leaves of the farm products, obviously, the concept of photosynthesis, which is the basis of crop production or crop yields, will be adversely affected. So this is how they will be affected unless measures are put in place to resettle them. And resettlement, who pays for it? Is it the government? Is it the mining companies? You see, they begin to develop fears. So if the stakeholders, the Ministry of Lands, Forestry and Mines, the Ghana Integrated Iron and Steel Development Corporation doesn't come in, and even EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Water Resources Commission, they must be proactive, because where truthful and relevant information doesn't exist, people feed on all kinds of rumors. So aside the information I shared with them, they knew next to nothing about the benefits to the country and the negative effects it will have on them. We must have a complete conversation in context of the environment, in addition to what Ghana stands to gain.
Okay, we need to wrap up. If there's an appeal to the authorities on this matter, what would that be?
I feel that proactive steps must be taken because it's marks of, for a better word, disrespect for a community to be there and you see containers being offloaded. When you ask them, they tell you they are coming to start exploration. At least some community engagements must be done through the stakeholders, the chiefs, the churches, and the ministry, the agencies like the Ghana Integrated Iron and Steel Development Corporation, the EPA, must begin to engage with the communities because a mining company cannot spend millions of hard-earned US dollars, finish exploration, define an ore body ready to mine. Then the community will rise up and say, we will not agree for you to mine. Investors will not be very happy with that. So the earlier engagements are done. Stakeholders, the communities, the chiefs, everybody buys in, whether to allow or not to allow. I think the better it will be because I feel for the government setting up a separate government agency aside the Minerals Commission because Minerals Commission controls the policy implementation for all mining activities in Ghana. So to separate it and form the Ghana Integrated Iron and Steel Development Corporation, I feel the same agency must be attached in starting off well so that the benefits Ghana and communities in gold mining areas didn't derive from gold mining. I don't think it should be repeated when we begin a new resource exploitation in terms of what the iron ore which is on the lands in our community. So engagement is necessary. The communities must buy in, whether to agree or not to agree. I think that way it will help us so much.
Grateful, Samotete, for spending some time with us here on the Pulse. President Akufo-Addo is urging citizens to continue to support government's mandate in the ongoing efforts to revive the economy. Well, he made the remarks during the Eid al-Adha celebrations at the Black Star Square earlier today.
To deliver the needed progress and prosperity that we all seek. I said at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic that we do not know how to bring back lives, but we know how to bring back the economy. I stand by those words. Inshallah, we're working to restore the economy to full health. And inshallah, we shall do so. The young people in our Muslim communities, you have every right to celebrate today. By all means, celebrate. But by all means, be cautious. Your life matters to the nation and to your family.
The National Chief Imam, Usman Nur Sharabatu, also showered prayers for peace to prevail in the protracted Boko conflict.
Your Excellency, Chief Imam says on this special occasion he commits the whole of the nation into the care of the Almighty Allah. Indeed, Allah has kept order in our country and given us peace. We ask him to enhance the peace and harmony. The situation is in Boko is of concern to us. We ask Almighty Allah to bring his peace to Boko. Our nation, Ghana, we ask Almighty Allah to keep intact our country. The two leaders that God has given to us, His Excellency the President and His Excellency the Vice President, we commit them unto the care of Allah. May Allah grant them His protection. May Allah help them. May Allah give them the strength on which they are able to take care of the whole of the nation. May Allah enhance them in their health. May Allah continue to increase the peace that we are enjoying in our country. May Allah give us more peace. Our compatriots, as you said, Your Excellency, who are in Mecca at the moment, we ask Allah to grant them His traveling mercies that they will arrive in peace. You have kept the tradition of supporting and helping the Muslims during on such occasion. We pray that Allah will reward you abundantly. And
Meteor agency says the recent wet weather conditions will begin easing immediately and should end effectively by the second week in August. It, however, says that moderate to severe thunderstorms or rains, which could result in some floods, are to be expected. They also say that there will be colder nights and mornings, and are urging parents to provide some warm clothing for their children. Felicity Ahienfenyo is head of Central Analysis and Forecast at GMET.
In the coming days, we still have rain over the southern sector, but then the intensity is going to reduce gradually. And then by second week of August, we are expecting that we'll have an end to the major rainy season for the southern sector. But then the north, they will still be in the season because they are just starting. So we are expecting frequent thunderstorms with rain over their area from now till August, September through to October. So for tonight, yes, it's going to be cloudy over the entire country with pockets of rain and then drizzle over the coast and part of the middle sector through to tomorrow. That's the indications we are picking from our model chart. And then on Thursday, we expect similar thing. Then over the north, yes, we're expecting one moderate to severe thunderstorms between now and then Sunday. So everybody needs to be in preparation. Southern sector, we are almost in the cold season. So the weather will be very chilly, especially in the morning and then the evening hours.
Someone is saying winter has come to Accra.
Yeah, winter has come to Accra, yeah. So we are pleading with parents, mothers, fathers to get warm clothing for our kids and then the aged in society. We ourselves, we should try and get some small umbrellas or raincoats. And then in terms of our drainage system, we need to do something on our own to make sure that we clear the waterways. For the government, to the assemblymen or whatsoever, we are pleading the potholes are just too much. They have to try as much as possible to fill it up for us. And then drivers or motorists, we should try as much as possible not to cross any standing water that we have no knowledge about.
That can be dangerous.
Very, very dangerous.
And an opportunity to work in AngloGold Ashanti Obuasi mine remains a dream for many residents, especially indigenous of Obuasi, Bui. But what we do know is that the introduction of an apprenticeship program by mining giants to train the youth in its Adansi catchment area with entrepreneurial and some employable skills appear to have changed the narrative of residents wanting to work in the mines at all costs. My colleague Ohime Interior reports some residents, including women, are taking advantage of the training provided by AngloGold Ashanti in trades such as welding, fabrication and auto engineering to change their lot.
Suspension of operations at AngloGold Ashanti Obuasi mine, which until now employed thousands of residents, adversely affected the economy of Obuasi, bringing the economy on its knees. It explains the saying that Obuasi is the mine and the mine is Obuasi. But with the resuscitation of the mine, following the launch of the redevelopment program in 2019, life has since returned into normalcy. The dream of many of the teeming youth in Obuasi is to work in the mine to better their lots. But the introduction of the apprenticeship and entrepreneurial programs means residents waiting to be employed can acquire skills at no cost thanks to AGA's benevolence. This forms part of efforts by AngloGold Ashanti to develop resilient and socio-economically self-sustaining communities in its catchment in the next 10 years. At least 230 youths in Obuasi are benefiting from this scheme as they receive training in dressmaking, welding and fabrication, among others. One of them is Vera Akomia Ajimai, a former restaurant attendant undergoing training in welding and fabrication.
Even if I didn't get chance in the mine to work, I can open my own shop and work there.
Besides the skills training, residents are taking advantage of the presence of the KNUST Obuasi campus to acquire knowledge that will position them to work in the mine in the future. A level 400 metallurgy student tells Joy News his desire to work at the mine influenced his decision to read his current course.
Growing up, I know a lot about galamsey and gold. And I know that as a child, I know that gold sells a lot and there's money in gold and all that. So growing up, I took interest in the gold because right in front of your house there is a gutter or whatever, and people are just trying to dig gold from it. So I actually wanted to be a geological engineer, but then God knows best. I chose geology as first, metallurgy second, because metallurgy is also related to the gold processing. And then by God's grace, I had a chance to pursue metallurgical engineering here in Obuasi campus. And I would say it has been a blessing a lot. And I've really gone to know a lot of people in the industry there at AGA.
Senior Sustainability Manager Emmanuel Bedu says AGA, through a 10-year socio-economic plan, intend to make Obuasi self-sustaining.
There is clearly something good that we are doing, and we are encouraged to continue to do those things we are doing, in particular implementing our 10-year socio-economic development plan. We want to remain focused. I believe the Obuasi people want to see development. They want to see improvement in lives. We definitely have a role to play in our own small way in contributing to rewriting the narrative.
From Obuasi, for Joy News, Oyemi reporting.
And thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. We'll be back after this break. Far-right alternative German party, or AfD, won a district-level election this week, the first time the party has held a governing role in Germany. It was a major breakthrough for the AfD in a country where, giving its Nazi past, there are particular taboos against far-right political movements. The vote also comes on the heels of a rising support for similar parties of course, across the whole of Europe. DW correspondent Emily Schultes is joining us for more on this. Emily, first off, why was the AfD's victory such a big deal?
That they've held any sort of governing role. So even though it is sort of on the local level, this is still a very unprecedented moment for the party. You have, because of the history of far-right movements in Germany over the course of the last century, most of the other political parties, all of the other political parties, have vowed not to work with the AfD in any way, have vowed not to build governing coalitions with them. And so while they've come close in past moments to getting mayorships or things like that, this is the first time they've actually won outright. And it's a party that has slowly built up its support over time, particularly in Eastern Germany, which is where this election took place. And as they gain that support, they're getting closer to being able to hold some of these governing roles, despite the taboos.
Did the AfD gain a foothold in German politics?
Well, for a long time, Germany was seen as sort of immune to a far-right party like this, given its history. The AfD has existed for about 10 years now, and it was originally founded to focus on opposition to the euro currency. But starting when an influx of refugees came to Europe in 2015 and 2016, the party really capitalized on its hardline positions on immigration issues, and they won their first seats in the parliament here in 2017. And since then, you've really seen, like I say, especially in the East, especially now in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic and some of their positions on coronavirus restrictions, their focus on inflation and energy prices in this last year, they have managed to slowly but surely build up support, especially in certain parts of the country.
And I'm just wondering, how does the AfD fit within the trends of other far-right parties in Europe? Well, this small but significant victory for the AfD comes at a time when
their support is rising nationally and when similar parties are also seeing gains elsewhere in Europe. And a lot of this is due to parties capitalizing, like the AFD, on rising inflation, on energy prices, and you can see, for example, next door in Austria, the far-right Freedom Party is coming in first in the polls right now and has been for some months. You've seen in recent elections in places like Finland and Sweden and Italy that far-right parties are making gains, joining new governments. And so while there's no one-size-fits-all trend for different countries, every country is different, you really have seen overall an uptick in support for these kinds of parties across Europe.
Thank you, Schultes, for joining us. The largest industrial manufacturing company in Europe, Siemens, has secured a new partnership with the government of Ghana targeted at deepening and expanding the study of science, technology, engineering, arts and mathematics in Ghana. Through the German mission here in Accra, the Siemens Foundation says it will promote STEM education in basic schools across the country to promote the growth of Ghana's labour market. Managing Director, spokesperson of the Managing Board of the International Siemens Foundation, Dr. Nima Schmidt, says STEM education is necessary for solving complex global issues.
The study of science, technology, engineering, arts and mathematics has been identified as a prerequisite for Ghana's industrial revolution and economic transformation. Already, the government of Ghana says it is scaling up efforts targeted at training young learners in all educational facilities to adapt to the changes in technology around the world. Identifying the need to support developing countries, German conglomerate Siemens AG says it has secured a new partnership with the government of Ghana targeted at deepening and expanding the study of science, technology, engineering, arts and mathematics in Ghana. Dr. Nina Schmidt is Managing Director and spokesperson of the Managing Board of International Siemens Foundation.
We are working here with a number of partners, most prominently, of course, with the local schools. We are working with the government institutions here. We are working with the German Chamber of Commerce and a couple of other organizations who help us to actually implement these STEAM programs at the local school level. Now, what's so special about this approach? It's actually an approach that's taking in the problem-solving skills of the students. So the students really learn to experiment, to try out different ways, different perspectives to create new solutions. Why is it so important when it comes to tackle some of the biggest problems of our time? For example, to deal with sustainability, to deal with climate change. We believe that STEM education really lies at the root of all these issues. And if we have teachers basically teaching students, teaching young people how to use the STEAM approach in a creative, in an innovative way, this makes all the difference for society.
German ambassador to Ghana, Daniel Krul, says the latest intervention from Siemens AG will go a long way to strengthen the cooperation between Ghana and the German government.
As you are aware, Germany is a long-time partner in development cooperation with Ghana. We have the 3G focus areas, and one of them is growth for employment. And so it is about employability of the ambitious youth of this country. We have a strong partnership in the field of TVET. We just started a joint program with the European Union, the Ministry of Education and Employment, and our German Cooperation Implementation Agency, GIZ, 16 million in the field of vocational training. So German cooperation has been very active in the field of vocational training and skills development. If you ask me what is Siemens Stiftung doing, and you ask me to say it in one sentence, my answer is Siemens Stiftung is about convincing you that science is sexy.
The latest program will see many schools in Ghana receive technical training using cutting-edge technological devices in order to build the skill sets of young learners.
So in Ghana, what we do is to get teachers from the public schools. Mostly we have started with the basic schools. We provide them with a training, after which we supply them with a combo of apparatus and equipment, components, electrical components, across topic areas that fall under the Ghana Education Service syllabus. So the teachers having.
And now the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture says it is committed to protecting the rights of creatives in Ghana by making sure their works are properly safeguarded. Deputy Minister for Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, Mark Okrekumanti, made this known at a signing of an MOU between the Creative Arts Agency and Expertise France. There's more in this report.
A memorandum of understanding has been signed between the Creative Arts Agency and Expertise France to support the expansion of the music industry in Ghana. Deputy Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture, Mark Okrekumanti, says this initiative will go a long way to protect the creative space in Ghana.
Expertise France is here to help with getting the technology on board, sensitizing the industry people. The know-how is very important. Yes, we know up to a degree, but they are masters, they are experts. SACEM, which is the Creative Society of France, has been around for so many years. They've made all their mistakes, they've polished their wrongs, and now they've become masters. It is only prudent that we engage them and we work with them, we collaborate and learn from them.
The Creative Arts Agency CEO, Jan Kroma Akufo-Addo, revealed that there would be capacity building to expose creatives to the gains in the industry.
I mean, we have to be able to make sure that our industry are all encompassed in understanding the knowledge of copyright, intellectual property. Right now, as it stands, our artists and our artists' works are not protected. So I think that it will be also a ripple effect on the professionality that we have for the music industry. These are steps towards digitizing GAMRO, and these are steps towards making sure that every single artist within Ghana understands how to own their work. Copyright and intellectual property.
Director of Sustainable Inclusive Economy at Expertise France, Sylverine Peters Destarach, says the partnership will ensure that property rights of creatives are duly protected.
The first and the main goal of this partnership is to work on property rights. So it's in order to give to the artists, Ghanaian artists, the power and the capability to live from their art.
The project, which starts in June 2023 and ends in June 2025, is funded by the French government. For Joy News, Jacqueline Ansuma Yeboah.
And thanks for staying with us. We'll be back. United States aid agency is partnering with the World Food Programme to provide support to farmers here in Ghana. We have more in this report.
The farmer support activity looks to cushion and build the capacity of farmers, especially those in the northern parts of Ghana. A total of 17,000 farming households in 17 districts in the northern, northeast, upper east, and upper west regions will receive 3,500 cedis each. Kimberly Rosen is mission director at USAID.
To ensure accessibility and convenience, small-scale farmers will directly receive the cash transfers into their mobile money accounts. This method allows them to easily access the funds in an efficient manner. The cash transfers provided through this program serve as a flexible tool that the farmers can utilize to address their most urgent needs. This flexibility empowers farmers to invest in their farms, purchase necessary inputs, cover labor costs, or attend to other important requirements. It is important to note that this program is part of our broader commitment to support Ghana's agricultural sector.
Through a multi-sectoral initiative that includes the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, the National Identification Authority, and MTN, the World Food Programme has identified, targeted, and registered vulnerable smallholder farmers. According to WFP representative and country director Barbara Clemens, this is to ensure that these farmers do not compromise on quality and quantity.
This, especially going into this lean season, seeks to identify them, assist them so that they are not consuming some of their inputs or making negative coping choices in terms of I'll cultivate less land or I'll buy less food for my household. We want to make sure that we're there when the assistance is needed and is given to the right person so that they can increase their productivity. And that really is the point of this.
Deputy Agric Minister Yao Frimpong Adu urged the farmers to be prudent with their investment.
There are several other households who were not lucky to have been part of this program. So those of you who have been selected, I will call the lucky ones. You need to prove to the donors, our development partners, that this money is not for your pocket or your purse or your wallet. It is for productivity. And just as they said, you observe the strong team here. The M&E team is so strong with financial, those people with financial background, they are going to monitor you from penny to penny. And if you don't account for it, you may be in trouble. We cannot shield you because we want you to use the money to deliver what you have to deliver.
The farmer support activity will run till March 2024.
And scores of commuters were left stranded today after an accident on the Joasso section of the Kumasi-Accra road. A Metro mass transit bus and an articulated truck collided head-on. Some passengers, as we understand, sustained minor injuries, and eyewitnesses say that the Metro mass bus was trying to avoid a stationary vehicle on the side of the road.
VIP. Into here, Bano. Let us say D. We actually Obuasi. The who as I say was slowed down to say breaking at once. Say yes, in Kofobi on a chair. No trust safe Muslims leave. I'm going to pick up which thing we do. Into Obuasi news or qua, we care for us. Don't slow down, Kakra. That's yes, we did. The boat, me grab and boat, bring it to rubber in your first seat. Boat break, pay me, you know, and Yaguma. Let's say, go ball, Obuasi, and I look up ball.
Nipa waka no be a prepare.
Your sister be only the last person before car. No be betting na see the bargaining kum. The bargaining kum na. I say bag na inside na maintain. Say we see for me see na sister be free. Or no be free actually no only pray.
And social media is feasting as two former Lovebirds actor Yvonne Nelson and rapper Sarkodie take their 13-year feud a notch higher, trading blame for Yvonne Nelson's abortion of their pregnancy as revealed in her book, I Am Not Yvonne Nelson. Jacqueline and Somaya Boa is keenly following the pair as they battle out their bitter past.
The two are trading blame over their 2010 pregnancy, which was later terminated. Sarkodie played to her strength rap to respond to Yvonne's blame for the situation, captured in her new book, I Am Not Yvonne Nelson. This extract is read by an actor.
I wasn't the only one responsible for the situation, so I called the man whose protein seed had germinated in me. His name is Michael Owusu-Ado, a renowned Ghanaian musician who is better known as Sarkodie. I called him on the phone and said we needed to talk. He still lived with his mother, and this was not the kind of news to break in the house. I sensed the intensity of his emotions when I broke the news to him. I could hear his heart pounding, and when he finally found his voice, he faltered. His message was, however, unambiguous. He didn't want the pregnancy. That would damage him and his career. The only option was to get rid of it. I was still wondering if the man whose name I bore was my father. How was I going to bring another human being into this world to live like me? Someone whose father would reject him or her as Mr. Nelson had rejected me? If there was a way to spare someone else the trauma I was contending with, why will I reject that option? especially when I was not psychologically and emotionally prepared to be a mother.
Not even finished listening to the rap before issuing an immediate counter response on Twitter, indicating how impressed she is about the rap, but flatly rejecting Sarkodie's claim.
In my book, I narrated how you got me pregnant, how you couldn't wait for me to get rid of it, how you drove me to have an abortion. As usual, you want to use rap to rubbish a pain a young woman felt. We both have daughters. Let's see what life throws at them. Insults won't work, Michael. Respect womanhood. I'm happy the world gets to see how you are playing this and the real you. Young women get to learn from this. You will get the applause for a rap. Still doesn't change the truth.
This may not end today, but it definitely has caused a buzz on social media and provided many curious holiday makers in Ghana and elsewhere something to help them relax on a day of the Feast of Sacrifice. For Joy News, Jacqueline Ansima Yeboah.
And that's all we have for you in this package. And bless us. We can log into myjoyonline.com. We have more stories for you there.